So driver, how do you hit this thing straight? How do you hit it long? Well, look, just had a research student of mine, Paul, come and see me now. He came and see me 2 weeks ago, and do you know what? I failed. I didn't get the results that I wanted. In fact, he came and said, Danny, I'm a bit confused. I feel like I'm trying to get the swing into all these different positions. I'm overthinking it. I need to come back and see you. So I failed, and I didn't want to fail a second time. So we got him back, and we made a huge difference to his game. This is the message he sent me. It was a game changer, and what we did was kept it really, really simple. 4 simple steps we went through to turn his big booming slice with his driver into a beautiful, beautiful draw and gain some serious yardage. I want to share with you exactly what we did, but you know what? I really think it could help you too. Now, before I get into the video, look, if you're new to the channel, this is one of your first videos of mine, please consider subscribing. Just press that little bell button, next subscribe button, you get notified every time I release a video just like this one. Plus, I always put a free downloadable practice guide in the description box below. You never have to remember a thing. Great, so let's get started in this 4-step process that we gave Paul. It sounds like a lot, but it was very, very straightforward. The first thing Paul came to me, he was just overthinking it. So he was swinging back here and he was trying to put the club into position. And all this did was make him very, very wooden. He was moving the body all over the place back here and then moving it through, and he was creating a big booming slice with his driver. I needed to start with stage 1, which was, let's get some momentum in this golf club. Momentum is simply this. You've got a mass here, a big lump of mass at the end of this golf club. Momentum is when you allow this mass simply just to swing freely, and you allow momentum to happen. What Paul was doing was holding the club quite tightly, steering it, and trying to create that momentum artificially, move the club through positions. You can see how jagged this circle is that I'm creating compared to this, which is both very accurate, effortless, and actually flies pretty quick. So that's the first thing. How we did that was simply very simple. We took him with his trail hand here. I got him to throw the club over his right shoulder, throw the club over his left shoulder a few times, and sense that lovely momentum in the club. As soon as he did this, it was like, that in itself was like he took a big sigh of relief. Oh my God, I can actually feel the club. And suddenly that in itself was amazing. But I said, okay, well, that's your right hand, your trail hand. What I want you to do now, do exactly the same now with your lead hand. Swing the club over your trail shoulder, sling it over your lead shoulder. And as you're doing this, we're allowing the club, very important, to bottom out at the bottom of the ball here and then over your lead shoulder. What I don't want you to do, which is what tends to happen, is just throw your lead arm out in front of you here. That's swinging the arm, it's not swinging the mass of this club. Now, once he'd done that once or twice, I got him to join both hands together, swing it over the trail shoulder, over the lead shoulder here, backwards and forwards. Then, that was almost stage 1, but we didn't stay there. Before we moved to stage 2, I said, now watch. You can feel the mass, can't you? Well, you know you've been coming over this way to slice it. So now what we're gonna do is, watch this. I got him here to move the mass and sling the mass over to his right side because he could now. He'd never been able to do this before because he couldn't feel where it was. Now he could swing it over here. He could also swing it over here whenever he wanted. So now he knew he was in control of the mass. We now need to enhance that. We needed to kind of say, well, how do you then control it so you can hit straighter shots, longer shots? Now we've got some form of swing. Well, you need to organize it. And to do that, he was already, without realizing, organizing this mass, because what's happening here is this: your body is very smart. Once it can sense this kind of momentum in the head, what it starts to do is it starts to work in such a way that it can accelerate the club on the way back and accelerate the club on the way through. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to exaggerate this, and this is a wonderful exercise you should try. If you were to grab a rope, this works in exactly the same way. This is probably one of the best training aids you could buy, a bit of heavy rope. So this is your floppy club. So watch how the body, in order to throw this rope over the shoulders here and over the shoulder here, notice how my body naturally starts to work. Can you see this? So first of all, in order to move it back, my momentum goes forward first. It goes forward, then back, then forward. Now, I'm not telling my body to do this. My body can feel what it needs to do because it's trying to create momentum in this rope. Does it make sense? So as I swing back here, look. Now, I'm not saying move around all over the place, but all I'm doing very subtly is momentum back, momentum through, and away we go. Now, one thing Paul said was, he said when he got to the top of his backswing, he said, I've never felt that before doing it. I can feel a pause at the top, because as a slicer, he would sling over the top here and hit these big slices. He said he felt a pause. Where did that pause come from? Do you know what? When you start to move these motions here, and you can feel this floppiness, this kind of looseness at the top of the head, you can feel the weight of the head, your body naturally realizes, well, it makes no sense to throw it like this. It creates the pause, allows your weight to move onto this lead side naturally, and then fire the rope, or in this set, the golf club, through. So wonderful bit of kit to start to organize the swing. So we then, from that position, so he's now got the swinging club, he's moving his body. I said, move your body now in a way that starts to organize it here. So the bit of forward momentum, back and through. Now, moving into step 3, he's now started to organize it now, so his body's starting to increase that momentum. But one of the key things with driver is this. Step 3 was, we needed him here to create some form of pressure on this arc. So I wanted him really to create a consistent circle. One of the problems is when he got this initially, his body was all floppy. I didn't want his body to be as floppy as the golf club. So what I said is, look, no, I want you here, like you did with one hand, to create momentum. Notice this. When we're creating momentum, this club is being almost thrown out onto a circle. That is what was called pressure on the arc. Sometimes what he did was he would get loose here and loose here, thus dragging the club through the ball. We don't want that. I wanted him to create pressure on this arc. So I said, speed up the backswing and the downswing. So as you start to organize this, swing it over your right, swing it over your left, and get a sense here that you are almost throwing the club out on this circle. Now your body won't want to go with it because it'll fall over. So it resists this motion naturally. So you'll see with a lot of the better players, they don't move around too much, do they? One of the reasons why is because when they've got momentum on the way back here, they'll naturally resist that momentum here. They won't want to fall with it. And on the way through, look, as they've now organized it, they can throw that club down, and their body, because the mass is got pressure on the arc, their body's resisting this motion. Now with Paul, he felt as though the release was happening very, very early. This is what helped him hit up on the ball. With the irons, you might feel it happens a little bit later, but with driver, he really felt when he was swinging here that the release was happening a lot earlier in that swing. And that naturally gave him the beautiful strike. So we started to get distance now. We got the strike. We now needed to just straighten him up a little bit. Although he was starting to hit it much straighter, we didn't get the lovely draw that he wanted. So we introduced step number 4, which is he's got the feel of the club head. But what he didn't have is quite control over the face yet. So all I did was simple. I said, look, take the club. What does a closed face feel like? That's right. Knuckles down to the ground, okay? So knuckles down to the ground, just feel that there, that's the closed face. Now I don't want you to be kind of flicking your wrists and all that kind of stuff, just feel like those knuckles are slightly downwards, that's a closed face. Now when you're doing this motion, okay, I want you to imagine that sense of those knuckles just facing the ground a little bit more on the way down, then you know face is closed. That's all we did. So we said, right, okay, let's hit a shot, get ourselves set, and it got him to start to swing and hit that beautiful draw. Simple as that. So, 4 things. First thing, Paul was overthinking it. He was getting too very position oriented. We needed him here to start to get a sense, reconnect. We actually called it a reset. Reconnect with your swing. Feel the momentum of the club. Start with your right hand or trail hand first, over your trail shoulder, over your lead shoulder. If that feels momentum, feels what that arm's supposed to be doing. Secondly, then move on to your lead arm. Throw it over your trail shoulder, throw it over your lead shoulder. Feel momentum, join the hands together. Start swinging in different directions. Why? Because you can. Yeah, because you can feel it. Now you can swing the club in any direction you like because you can actually feel it. Stage number 2, you need to organize it. To hit straighter, longer drives, just swing the club freely is great, but it's not the complete answer. How do you organize it? grab the rope. Remember with the rope, we've got this floppy rope. Notice how the body naturally starts to organize and creates momentum. Feel, and you need to get your golf club and do this. You need to feel, how is my body going to create momentum in this club on the way back, and how does it create it on the way down? The simplest way to do this, first of all, grab yourself a rope, because it almost forces you to do this. Once you start to organize it, okay, you then need to amplify it a little bit more. To amplify it, make sure you have momentum on the way back and momentum on the way down. What does that extra momentum do? It keeps pressure on the arc. Paul felt as though he was really almost throwing the club outwards as he was coming down. This then naturally got his body to stay much, much more stable. And you know, without him thinking, he was always wanting to try and open his hips and turn his hips. The hips opened automatically because they were responding naturally to this momentum. And the fourth thing, to add that natural draw in, all we did was simply say, look, you've got the feel of the head, you're hitting so much better, so much further. Just get a sense of where the face is now. Just close face, look, oh, the knuckles are a bit more down to the ground. Okay, just feel that motion. Okay, so somewhere in the swing, you're gonna feel that impact. Those knuckles a bit more down to the ground. And that was it, what created an absolutely beautiful, beautiful draw. So I really, really hope this helps. If it does, please give it a thumbs up. Maybe share it with one of your friends. And remember, there's a free downloadable practice guide in the description box below, so you never have to remember a thing. And of course, look, if you're new to the channel, it's one of my first videos, press that subscribe button and the bell so I can see you next week. But until next week, have a great golfing week.